Well, the biggest issue in our city is just wanton murder and the ridiculous nature of what these murders are. And just to clarify for your viewers, someone wants to kill somebody. They can't find that person. They look on their social media and they see a person in the same picture. They see that person waiting for a bus, so they run up on that person, they shoot them. And that's where we are. That person is not a criminal. That person is not involved in any way, did not participate in any, they're just simply in a photograph with somebody else. And this is the state that we're in when we're talking about young people murdering each other. And the fact that innocent people are shot is not a problem for them. You know, that this is a big problem. If people do not understand this problem, they are trying to solve something that they are really kind of misapplying themselves to. So murder of this nature, because there is a retaliation for that. The people shooting each other know who they are, and quite frankly, they are publicizing it with photographs, videos, and music and lyrics about why they did it, who did it, and what it was about. So it's that open. I think for many people in the community, they find it very frustrating that somehow law enforcement cannot respond to the fact that it's kind of known who's doing what, why they're doing it. They're even saying so. Or for example, when a group of adults pulls up on a schoolyard and leaves almost 100 shells, you know, a schoolyard, you know, a playground of children. That cannot be acceptable. That should bring down the house in prosecution, in punishment. And, you know, that's where we're going to differ. Some people will say, well, that's not the answer. I will say not doing that sends a very bad message, and that promotes this type of problem. So for me, yeah, that is the major problem, but I cannot address this like a mayor. I can only address it like a council person. And so I chair a committee that has to do with global opportunities and the creative, innovative economy. I don't chair a committee on public safety. What I can do, however, is introduce a resolution to have a hearing, and it's up to my colleagues to approve it. It won't be under my committee. It'll be under the Public Safety Committee. But specifically, since I pushed to appropriate $500,000 to immediately move mothers who are being shot at for months and more than a year, because it's perceived in the community that their children cooperated with law enforcement. At least that is the excuse. We set aside this $500,000 and specifically said, this is to move these women before they are murdered. And also to send the message that we are going to care for those whose lives are in danger. And we certainly want to let people know that if you are a witness to a crime, you can cooperate. We will be there in every way possible to protect you and your families. But unfortunately, to my knowledge, none of this money has been spent for these mothers. And what I need to know, because I've heard that $300,000 was sent to the district attorney's office. Well, the district attorney has money for witness relocation. This is not witness relocation. This is relocating people who are not witnesses to a crime. They are simply related to someone, and therefore they're being shot at and assaulted. So from there, we can go into why are we not able to move people, you know, for almost 2 years now. Their houses have bullet holes in them. They live in the neighborhood where areas in our city that have been identified as hotspots where young people are hunting each other, driving around the block 2, 3 cars at a time. And why is it that this can happen out in the open? You know, is there not ability to use drone technology to follow them, to identify them? people know the cars, they know the people, they know what's happening. Now, what message that sends is that the city is unable to do anything about that. And I think that is absolutely incorrect. The city can do something about it. The question is, why is it not? And so, I think that in this conversation about too much policing, too little policing, I think the fundamental thing that people want is good quality public safety. Does it take more? Does it take less? Does it take more technology? I think those are issues about how you deliver good quality, polite, courteous, knowledgeable, lawful, constitutional, law enforcement, so that you as a citizen do not have to be afraid to live in your house or where your children go. That to me, if we cannot answer this problem, it is a failure for the citizens and the visitors and the workers of our city. So to me, this is an obvious thing that you got to pay attention to and fix. So where's that money? How come it's not used? And how come these mothers are being shot at and everyone knows who's doing it, and there is a failure of response? And I think that is, the first part of what's going on, because it seems to be based in some policy ideas and decisions. When you move, let's say, a mother, you have to move her children. In order to move her children from their schools, you have to have an address where the children are going to go. So all of this seems to be very difficult to coordinate between the managing director's office and the police and the school district, and that seems to be a unacceptable problem. So I think that was the first thing I started with. Schools, I think, are another problem. Once again, we are hearing about the fact that in late August, it's hot. You don't have air conditioning. So you know that when you start school at that time, the weather's going to be hot. And if you keep doing this for the next 10 years, you're going to be dismissing children. They're not dismissed at the same time. They're dismissed at different times. Some schools have air conditioning, some schools don't. So I think its fundamental problem is, if you know you're going to dismiss kids, why did you start before Labor Day? Because we used to not start before Labor Day. Is this just to annoy people? Are you doing this on purpose to tell them the schools need more money? Is this like an intentional thing you do? Is this a disrupt people? I don't know. It's just an odd thing. But yeah, the air conditioning has to be solved, because we cannot do summer learning if children cannot go to school because it's too hot. And we want to do summer learning. I would hope so. I would hope that the school district provides education in the summer. And I don't mean, repetitive education. I mean something they wouldn't get in the normal school year, be it music or art or some type of math or science and technology or something. It's not, summer isn't remedial time. Summer is a good time for children to learn. And I don't think anyone's going to argue that the length of our summer vacations in our school causes children to lose what they've learned and a sense of how you learn. And listen, it's not a problem for wealthy people. It's not a problem for well-educated families and intact families. I mean, it's kind of burdensome, but it's not a problem. It is a problem for children who don't have structure, and that comes from where? Most of the problems in our city have to do with poor neighborhoods that don't have support and things like. So school is a great place for kids. If they're fortunate to have a swimming pool and a gym and air conditioning, even better. Physical activity, all the sorts of thing in a safe environment. But then again, we don't have safe environments, right? Some schools have safe environments and others don't. And the policy of the school that allows children who beat physically other children to remain in the school the beaten children are opting not to go to school. They're opting for online learning if they can, transferring, or what? Are they supposed to just go to school and get harassed and bullied and tortured? Public safety, it's the same problem. Like, so when a child goes to school, they should not be afraid of being shot or beaten on the way to school, and definitely not in school. The abdication of adult responsibility in our schools, you have to provide a safe environment. You cannot say, well, we're going to keep the bullies in because it's better for them. Okay, you're going to have to look at the entire population there. I'm not saying punish children unnecessarily. I am saying you have a priority of your responsibility. There's something you must provide: a safe, clean environment in which to learn and benefit from schooling. So that seems to be a problem. I think the problem is the disconnect between the school district and the community. And I think that is because we have a appointed school board that is appointed by the mayor and that basically has no accountability to the community. And I think if we could have the community elect 5 of those school board members and the mayor appoint 4, we would have, 5 zones where the community will choose who they like best to represent them. I think the far northeast presents a different set of concerns and opportunities than North Philadelphia. And so you can get someone who's more attuned to what needs to be improved, how the community feels, whether or not they want certain types of, like, you have a menu of 20 choices and you're going to have like 5 choices out of the 20. So some may want more like, the building trades type things, or arts, or technology or science. And some may want, things that have to do more with like health. But that's a choice they can have. And I think that overall, at least from what I have seen and read and studied about experts who have actually implemented outstanding public school systems in poor communities, there has to be a level of equity and equality. Equity in the sense that you can't have one dilapidated school with no working bathroom and a gorgeous the school with the all kinds of climate control. That's not a right thing to do. But you have to have equality in the sense that the academic choices and the learning choices and the activity choices are equal and similar. And I think someone said to me, like, the problem in Philadelphia is poverty. Yeah, it's a problem, but poverty has not prevented education in other environments. I think a more serious problem, and I'm not saying poverty isn't a problem, is disparity. It is when someone can look across the table and see that the other person has so much more when it is supposed to be equal, and they have so much less. That is very discouraging, creates all kinds of problems. And look, I tell in simple ways, I got 4 kids. If I give 2 of my kids amazing birthday presents, fantastic Christmas presents, and all that, and the other 2 get nothing, I will have 2 messed up kids and 1 messed up family. I will have animosity. I will have, all kinds of like emotional problems, not just from the kids who didn't get anything and feel left out and hated. They will not have a good relationship with their 2 siblings, and the family as a unit will have a problem. We do have to, provide equal opportunity in education. Now, is that so hard to do? And I would say, no, it's not. What's hard to do is to do it in a way that makes every stakeholder happy, and you can't do it. You have to make somebody unhappy if you're going to deliver good education and good opportunities for all the children. And it's not like something we don't know. Any of you can name right now the worst neighborhoods, the most crime-ridden neighborhoods, and they have the worst schools. You can name them, and I can name them, everybody can. The problem is there hasn't been an improvement of those schools. Yes, charter schools have been introduced and unintroduced, I suppose, right? Because now we got the problem of some charter schools, okay, if they're poor performing, that's an issue, but it's not really something I'm very clear on, because I've been to some of the poor performing charter schools. And when it was a public school, the kids were running amok and there was a lack of attendance, and there was other types of problems. I go to a charter school that is losing its charter, and I see a clean building. I see children wearing jackets, and they're dressed in uniform. They look happy. They seem happy. There's no running around with yelling, shouting, and cursing. I got to think that is a contribution. Now, I'm not saying the school district yet. Let's look at the results, but the results overall are not good. My thing is, I don't really believe everything I hear from the school district. And I hear a lot of things, and I know they're not accurate, and I know that they're not correct. I know that public school teachers, some of them, spend their own money to purchase items required by law. And when I asked the school district in budget hearings, they say there's no such thing. Well, I know that, so they know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we cannot track those type of things because there's no way to measure it. And I
don't mean to cut you off, Councilman, but
Yeah.
you had legislation
Yes,
that would help.
yes, would have tracked it and would have reimbursed teachers, and it was based on unspent tobacco settlement money. But that bill failed. And it's always a mystery to people, like, why does it fail? And again, I bring up that part about what you asked. How is it to be a minority in city council? Sometimes you have good ideas. They are not supported by the stakeholders of education. The teachers, retired teachers, supported it, but the bill did not make it out of committee because there isn't support for it. That's kind of hard for people to understand. How could you, when you're not using tax dollars, you're using available money, you have a system, no politicians involved, you submit your receipts for what you purchase, they have to be required school items. And then it's up to your committee of retired teachers to decide if you spend $1,200, that $800 is reimbursed. But what we get, as I've said before here, we get information that you as a teacher spent $1,200. We get information on what you purchased. We get information that you were reimbursed $800. So at least $800 of it vetted was for required school items. But what was the other $400? Probably for good things for children. So we get to see where teachers are doing this, because they're not doing it in every school. And I'm going to bet, once again, that even in good neighborhoods, there's not enough resources, and in bad neighborhoods, there's a lack of resources entirely. But the inequity, the disparity is what we have to be able to measure and then correct. But if you're unable to correct it because you don't want to make stakeholders unhappy, you will not correct this. But again, I am not part of that group. And so I suffer the consequence of not having a team, but I have the benefits of not being on a team. I'm kind of unconcerned about that team.